Hello, guys. Welcome back to our podcast, Into the Cargo Hold. Today, we're going to be talking and reviewing about the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett.
So on today's episode, we're going to go through and break down, kind of go beat by beat through the episode, talk about things we liked, things we didn't like. Later on in the show, we'll give our kind of overall rating and review of the episode. And then to end it off, we'll do our predictions for the next episode. But first, we need to do something very important, Ever. We need to plug our socials. So please check us out on our social medias, including Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and then you can also check us out. Our podcast is going to air on YouTube as well as anywhere you get your podcast, so Spotify and things like that. So please go out there, support our show, watch or listen or however, and be sure to subscribe to our socials so you can get updated anytime we release some new content.
I want to say that Instagram is going to be our main page where we post anything and any information about our show. So make sure
it's the most accessible. Yeah, most accessible for us. And we do have I think we have link trees on all our socials, so you can always find your way around.
And again, we're still working on representing each account. We're still working out the kinks. But anyways, yeah, let's move on from that and let's get cracking on this show.
All right, so the Book of Boba Fett, episode 1. The episode opens with some flashback scenes where Boba is in this Bacta tank. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with Star Wars, Bacta is essentially, it's like a healing liquid in Star Wars. And so Boba is in this tank, and it looks like it's healing his wounds. He looks a lot better than he did in Mandalorian. His complexion is better. He's got eyebrows now, so
he's tan.
Yes,
looks like he looked like he's got a tan. He's looking good. He is looking good.
He's looking trim, looking fresh. But while he's in this Bacta tank, he has some flashbacks to some key memories of his, and we see the planet Kamino, which is the home of the clones, including Boba Fett.
I know. When I first saw that opening, I was like, I was so hyped because I got to see Kamino again. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, it's really cool.
Yes, it was.
And it answered I got one of my answers to one of my questions from like last episode, like where I wanted to see flashbacks and or I was hoping to get flashbacks, and I did. I got to see youngling Boba Fett.
Right off the bat, the next flashback we see Boba in the Geonosis arena, and he's holding his deceased father's helmet, the helmet of Jango, and that was a really cool scene. I think the show is going to probably try to deepen the connection between Boba and his father, and we may see how heavily that weighs on him. But right after that flashback, we get to the big one, the one that people have been clamoring for decades, and that's Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc.
What were your thoughts on that? What did you think about that?
I have to say, and we'll talk about this more as we go through the episode, but I think that the episode was kind of weirdly paced. I think some parts were a little too fast and some parts were a little too long. They were kind of drug out. And this is one of the parts that I think went a little too fast. Boba Fett getting out of the Sarlacc has always been a kind of a big deal, especially before Disney bought Star Wars. There was a lot of stories of how Boba got out and things like that. And they were always very interesting and kind of flashy in a way.
Yeah.
And while I think the design of the inside of the Sarlacc and, all the goo and the internal tissue and things was cool to see.
And we got to see a stormtrooper.
Yes, there was a stormtrooper deep inside the belly,
right next to him. But I agree.
Yeah,
him escaping the Sarlacc it's not like a minor thing, and like you can just like everybody skims over it. It was a big thing. Like people wanted to know how he got out, and it seemed like they just skimmed through it
a little bit. Yeah, he got out pretty quick. It seems like he just burned his way out.
With his flamethrower. which I think is really cool that he has a flamethrower.
Yeah, that's always been such a cool part of the Mandalorian armor. But when even though it maybe wasn't what I expected it to be, I still did love that shot of his arm popping out of the sand, like returning from the dead.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he climbs out and climbs up on the kind of the sand mound, and he passes out. And then what happens? That's where we see his armor get stolen by the Jawas.
He gets stripped down
Yeah,
by
he
the
gets
Jawas.
stripped.
So that
And
answers another question.
mhm,
Actually, like what happened to his armor? You know
just straight up
how
got robbed.
just got stripped in the middle of the desert.
It's a very bad week for Boba, and it just gets worse from
It
here.
is.
So what happens next? He's laying in the sand, no armor, no food, no water. He looks terrible.
Nothing. He does. He looks like he needs some milk.
He needs some milk.
Well, later on, a group of Tuscan Raiders find
Mhm.
him and they tie him up. And what are those things that are carrying him
the
and the Tuscan
the
Raiders?
the banthas.
Banthos?
Yes, yeah, bantha.
Oh, see, I didn't even know the name of that.
Yeah, he gets it was very reminiscent of Mad Max to me. There's a scene in
Yes.
Fury Road where Mad Max gets struck through the desert and he's chained to the cars and they're
Mm-hmm.
pulling him. Well, that's what they're exactly what it reminded me of, because they're pulling Boba through the
Exactly.
desert.
Yeah.
And
You think they got inspiration from that?
I think probably I think I've seen that in some Western movies as well. So I'd probably
Oh,
lead
okay.
credence to that being more of the
Yeah.
inspiration. But pretty brutal way to treat a prisoner. And
Yeah.
he gets to the Tuscan camp and they tie him to this post. And this is so I mentioned how I thought the Sarlacc scene went a little fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scenes with Boba and the Tuscan camp, what we see at the beginning of the episode and then later towards the end, I think some of these scenes were a little long.
Yeah.
Um, I
Some that
know,
you wished or didn't wish, just like why? Why are these
right?
scenes longer than the other ones?
Yeah, there was. I think the first kind of scene we see with Boba in the camp is he's tied to the post, and then like the young Tuscan, the little Tuscan kids come up and start beating him with sticks and stuff.
I wonder what that was all about.
It
They're
seemed
just
just
poking him,
yeah, they. I
and
guess they were
then he just
interested
gets
in him.
kicked really
In
hard.
the oh yeah, and they knock him out.
It's like why? What is the point of this? But
Right. I was a
I don't know.
little. I was as I was watching it the whole time I was trying to think where is this going, right? And we see
Yeah,
that it does go somewhere, but I think they took the longer road to get where they wanted to go, right? And we'll talk about
yeah.
kind of where that is they wanted to go with the whole episode a little later. But some of these scenes were, I think, just a little drug out. We also
Mm-hmm.
see when Boba later I guess on the same day, maybe a few days later, it's nighttime, and there's a second prisoner with him, and Boba decides he's gonna make his escape. So
And
he
he uh the
oh, the
mastiff
Mastiff, yes, the
mastiff,
Tuscan dog.
and he was guarding him, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool. I've never seen a mastiff, or have we seen a mastiff?
They, yeah, they,
Mandalorian.
yeah, they were in the Mandalorian. If you remember, Boba, when Boba, not Boba, I'm sorry, when Mando and Cobb Vanth are traveling through the desert, they actually get stopped by a pack of
Like,
mastiffs,
yeah, I
and
remember
Mando's able to
that.
communicate with them and pacify
Yeah,
them. Yeah. Well,
that's
Boba
an
takes a
interesting
different
scene.
approach.
I know.
Boba takes the beat the dog approach.
And he knocks him out for a couple minutes while
Hmm.
he runs away. He actually uses the mastiff's jaw to cut his
His
ropes
rope.
that he
Yeah.
was bonded with.
And then in a really weird twist, Boba offers to free this other prisoner with him. He's
I
like, "Do you want
know.
me to cut your bonds?"
What
And
was
in
his deal?
in this,
And
yeah,
he just does not agree, and he actually starts yelling. He
yelling
starts to
for
sound
help.
like, I know, he sounds like an alarm. So okay, I wanted to ask you this. Well, uh, I think it's a question for later. Let's continue. I think this is a question for later.
All right, be sure to write it down so you don't forget, because I'm definitely interested in this
Okay.
question.
Okay.
So Boba runs away. He tries to run away, but the Tuskens catch up to him, and then
Mhm.
he duels one of the Tuskens. And this was another scene where I was a little confused on what was going on here, where
Mhm.
he duels the Tusken, but it seems a little odd. I mean, obviously Boba is in terrible shape, and so he's not really fit to fight.
Yeah. What were they trying to prove? Because they didn't all fight him. They didn't all take him
Mm-mm.
in. I guess the chieftain, the leader, he makes one of the Tusken Raiders fight him in like a
Correct.
1v1 combat. And I, what was the point in that?
I
He's
think
he's been dragged through the desert.
right.
He escaped the Sarlacc. I don't know if they know that though. Do you think they know that? Do you think they noticed the big hole in the ground?
They hopefully, maybe I don't know how good their depth perception is, but hopefully they
Yeah.
did notice a giant gaping mouth in the desert.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know what that was about. I don't know if that's part of their culture.
I think I would have to assume that yeah, maybe. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and say, but through the episode, you kind of figure out, or at least Eber figured it out, and he pointed it out to me yesterday that the theme of the episode was respect, earning respect.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like these Tuskens kind of earn respect through combat. And so maybe they were just testing him to see how respectable he was, and he didn't
Yeah.
quite meet their
Uh,
standards.
but quickly, I want to mention that the scene where he was running away, right? There was a
Mm-hmm.
specific scene where he was going over like a small mountain of sand. The background was weird. It was really
Yes.
weird. I want to say you could tell it was a set. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it broke. It got me off. Like I wasn't in
It
the
broke your
Star Wars world.
immersion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely did break my immersion. Uh, it was weird. It was just a weird thing for me, and I think that was editing. The
so
editing.
we'll go ahead and talk about this real quick.
Mhm.
But personally, I'm not a huge fan of Robert Rodriguez, who's the director of this episode. I'm not a huge fan
Shade.
of his style. I'm gonna throw a little shade at him. Um, the editing for this show was definitely weird.
it
There
could
was
it
a
could have been better.
there were a lot of things that's part of his kind of style and his directorial style that stick out like sore thumbs, especially in something like Star Wars.
Yeah.
He does a lot of shaky cam, a lot of POV shots,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like weird kind of jump camera zooms, stuff that would be all right in other movies or TV shows, but for Star Wars, like that's
Not it.
doesn't really fit the bill. And
Yeah.
so there were a lot of instances where I was kind of taken out. Like you said, like kind of broke the immersion,
Yeah.
and I see shaky cam and Star Wars. I'm like, no, 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 no.
But yeah, just that scene, it was really weird. You could see that it was a set, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like the lighting of the sky. It was colorful,
Right.
but
Even though
you
it's
could
supposed to be
see
night.
the yeah, you could see the outline of the sand. Like it had like a
Yeah,
small line around like the ground and the sky. So you could just tell like something weird was going on. But
for sure.
moving on, they fight. They have a one versus another Tusken Raider,
Mm-hmm. And
and
he
he
obviously
loses
loses. Yeah.
because he's weak.
But then we finally get
So
to the part of the episode that I was very excited for, where uh, Boba wakes up from his flashback,
yes.
and we see that Fennec comes to wake him up, and she's like, "Hey, boss, they're here to pay tribute. Time to get ready."
Hmm.
And we get this really cool scene of Boba suiting up in
That
his armor.
was epic. That was amazing. I
The
didn't expect them to do that. Well,
Mhm.
I kind of did. But how cool that scene was gonna be, I didn't expect it to be that cool.
For sure, the music, this was good cinematography. I thought, we were kind of ripping on Robert Rodriguez a minute ago about some of his weird choices, but
Yeah,
this scene was really well shot of him. He's suiting up, and you get some close-ups, and the music is very sinister. And then as soon as he puts on the helmet, you get a cool transition to him sitting down on the throne.
I know. Yeah,
And so Boba's
everybody's ready to pay tribute to him.
So we see looks like some other crime bosses around Tatooine coming to welcome Boba to the neighborhood, essentially.
Yes. The first one was a what was it was a
That
like fur, right?
no, the first person that came was an Aqualish, and it was the person like that Boba couldn't understand. He couldn't understand what they
Oh,
were saying.
yeah.
But I think they just paid him money. It looked like they just had like a small
mhm,
case of
yeah,
credits.
yeah, just coins.
hmm But this was something like. This was my favorite part of the episode, was seeing this throne room scene, and it's what I look forward to the most. I wish we got a little bit more on how Boba exactly established himself. We don't really know how long after this took place.
This is just the first episode. We
Right.
have 7 to go. 7 seems a bit short, but maybe they'll build up on like all that stuff. Show us how
Yeah.
he got, you know. Obviously, I think that's a big gap from
The
like
end of Mando.
yeah, it's a big gap to cover.
So
So
he's accepting tribute, and we do see what you were talking about. The next person to bring some tribute to him is this Trandoshan
yes.
guy, and Boba finds it so weird because apparently, I guess he used to work for this guy. Probably did some bounty hunter work for him.
Yeah, and Phoenix says, well now he works for you.
Yeah, it's probably weird for him too.
Yeah, it's
And
weird.
so a cool detail is that this Trandoshan guy brings Boba. It looks like a Wookiee pelt.
Yes.
And Trandoshans are known for hunting Wookiees, or like two species with forever conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really cool detail. And he seems a little. Boba doesn't really trust him. It doesn't seem like he says something
Yeah.
like, even when he pays you a compliment, it seems like
Sounds
a
like a
threat.
threat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely wouldn't trust anybody.
No,
No.
I don't know if you've ever watched Breaking Bad, but there's this great quote by Saul Goodman, who is a character. He's like a seedy lawyer for
Mm-hmm.
criminals.
Yeah.
And he tells one of the characters, he's like, hey, there's no honor among thieves except for us. And
Yeah.
so that's the whole mindset, is like, you can't trust anybody except for the people who want something from you. And they're going to try to get your trust or get whatever they want from you, and then they backstab you.
Yeah. I can yeah, that's I could see that being true.
hmm So then we get to the really interesting part, where the next person to come in to pay tribute to Boba is actually not who they thought it was. They were hoping to see the mayor. I'm assuming the mayor of Mos Espa, who is, I guess, this is
Yes.
the city center of Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, Mos Espa is actually the city that Anakin Skywalker grew up in.
Yeah. That was really cool. I didn't know that
Mm-hmm.
until you told me
Yeah,
later on.
it's a cool detail. I have to imagine that, I guess, Anakin lived on the outskirts of Mos Espa, because you can kind
Mm-hmm.
of see like the main city is in the crater, but there are
Yeah.
some smaller kind of pop up, looks like cities, kind of are like on the bluffs of the crater, I guess, that kind of go out into the sand dunes.
Yeah.
But
Um,
so the guy that shows up to
that's
Boba's
actually really
throne
cool.
room, yes, it is very cool. So the guy that shows up to Boba's throne room is actually the mayor's major domo, which is like an assistant, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And
And
what race is he again?
that is a Twi'lek.
Why like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he shows up to basically tell Boba all bad news. One, the mayor didn't show up in person. And
Yeah.
then secondly, he offers no tribute. And I really
No
liked that
tribute.
scene where
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, my tribute is the mayor's heartfelt welcome. He like really draws out the
Yeah.
heart, and they're like, so you have no tribute, and he's like, the heartfelt welcome.
Yeah, that
Um,
was a very funny scene.
so Boba seems a little annoyed, and he tries to send the guy off, but
Yeah, but
turns
then
out
he was expecting a tribute back
from Boba, right?
from
Yeah.
Boba, and it was like, what? Like, I'm sure Boba could probably have you killed right now.
Right. And Finnick
I
even
don't know.
offers to kill him. She's like, should I
Yeah,
kill him?
they
And
scare him off a little bit. Like, I can't remember what exactly they said to him, but I think they threatened him a little bit,
they
and then
do.
he
They
was like,
they say
"Oh,
something like, "Oh, our tribute is you leave here alive." Essentially,
yeah,
like you get to leave with your life.
yeah," and
He
it's
seems a
like,
little annoyed, the major domo himself, because he's like, "Okay, well, the mayor's not going to be happy about this, but
yeah,
oh well."
yeah, and he leaves off with with some threatening words,
Oh yes, yeah. He tells them to expect a future delegation, and it's kind of like
like,
in air quotes.
don't be surprised if yeah,
You get jumped in the
uh,
streets, which is exactly what happens.
yes,
um,
that is exactly what happens.
Something I wanted to point out that's kind of a cool detail, and it kind of, I guess, illustrates, it hints a little bit at what could be in the future for the show, but they specifically refer to these crime bosses in Boba Fett as a daimyo. And a daimyo is kind of what it's like the Japanese equivalent of like a Dutch or a duchess in a
Hmm.
sense,
Yeah,
where a daimyo in feudal Japan was like somebody who owned land.
yeah,
And they were like, pretty big deal. But of course, the person that was above them was the shogun, and they were like pretty much the governor of all the lands, right?
yeah.
So it seems like
So
Boba is not the shogun, but rather the daimyo, and the
and
shogun,
is the mayor.
presumably the mayor, since
Hmm.
he's not paying tribute to Boba, but he expects tribute paid, right?
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. What the show is gonna be about. Like, some major conflict is gonna happen between Boba Fett and the mayor. That's my take, my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I could have said that later on whenever we do our predictions.
Yeah, but it's fine. I mean, just throw it out now.
Hmm.
Um,
Um.
so after the major domo leaves, we finally see these two Gamorrean guards,
Yes.
and there's this droid who's actually from Return of the Jedi. You can see him in Jabba's palace, but he's kind of the one, I guess, proceeding over these tributes, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna execute and torture these guards because they didn't surrender." But Boba, he doesn't really want to do that. He's like, "No, we should
No.
let's see if they'll be loyal to me, right? They were loyal to their previous bosses, and maybe if I spare their lives, they'll be loyal to me too." And Finnick doesn't think it's a good idea.
No, because they were loyal to Java.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I
But
think even the droid says something like, if you don't torture them, it will like send a bad sign, or like a
yeah,
bad,
yeah.
people will think you're weak in a way.
And since we've already established I guess the theme of the show is like respect.
Mm-hmm.
That's another sign right there of like Boba is not here to do the same thing as
Right.
Jabba. He's gonna rule with like differently, different
Mm-hmm.
methods. And I think that's another one right there. I guess he got respect, or he wants respect from the two bodyguards.
Right. And it looks like
Sparing him.
we see later in the episode, it looks like he does actually get it. It pays off for
Yes,
him.
it does pay off. So
So
uh yeah, I think that was just another scene to show what the theme of the first episode was.
yeah, I agree. And so Boba takes these two guards and Finnick, and they go to Mos Espa.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that they're walking through the streets, they're turning heads, and Boba, he's the new big bad in town, and we get some interesting
Yes.
dialogue between him and Finnick, where Finnick seems a little frustrated with Boba that he's not really accepting this kind of kingly ship. He
Yeah. He
refused to be
was
carried.
mm-hmm. And I guess that's why they were looking at him.
It could be they could be looking at him, one, because maybe they recognize Boba Fett and they're a little afraid of him, or maybe they're like, oh, this guy is walking. A king is walking. How
Yeah.
weird.
How weird.
Um,
Yeah.
but yes, but Fennec seems a little perturbed with Boba not really accepting kind of nobility, but mm, Boba doesn't really seem, like you said, he's more interested in being respected rather than being
And
kind of pampered and
again,
feared.
we don't really know much about Boba Fett just from I'm just saying all of this from just the first episode, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He he doesn't seem like a bad person. He actually wants to make a change,
Right.
or he just, you know, he I don't want to say he's kind, but you know, he's not trying to rule,
Yeah,
and he
he's not
has like in
cutthroat. Not
fear.
really.
He's
Yeah.
not I don't think he has malicious intent. I
No.
think he's trying to make a whole army and then name it the Empire, and then, you know, take over the galaxy. Nothing like that.
Maybe. Um, so Boba and Fennec, they go to this place called the Sanctuary, and it seems like a little bar or casino style thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get kind of a funny scene where right before they go in, Fennec tells Boba, she says something like, look, this will just go easier if you accept their ways. She's talking about accepting being carried and things like that. And
Yeah.
they go into this bar, and these two servant Twi'leks come up and they offer to clean their helmets. And Fennec
Yeah.
says no, but Boba says, yeah, go ahead. And then he looks at Fennec and he says, it'll be easier if you accept their ways. So,
Which I would rather get carried through the town instead of having them clean my helmets. I just don't trust anybody in
right.
Tatooine. You know, it is a poor place.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what it seems like. But
A lot of
I don't know.
poverty, but then you've got these rich criminals who are like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, which like I think everybody's out to get everybody. You're not really
right.
safe. But
And
yeah.
so we see the owner of the sanctuary come up, and she is a Twi'lek, and I believe she was named Garsa Fwip. I may be wrong about that, but I think that was the name that they mentioned her by.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes up and she's like, "Oh, hello, welcome," you know. And Boba's like, "Hey, I'm just stopping by to say I'm your new boss." And
Yeah.
you
And
know,
she seemed a little bit surprised by like,
mhm.
you know, it's like you know, you didn't know or you don't know Boba Fett.
Right. She seemed, I think part of that had to do with the fact that he didn't make a big kind of showboat appearance. You know, he wasn't carried
Yeah.
in and
He wasn't
he didn't
good.
have a really big entourage. He was just kind of making a friendly stop, but she definitely did seem a little, what would be the right words? She seemed to look down on him maybe just a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
a bit prejudiced towards him, but she had to accept. I mean, he is the new boss, and when they bring the helmets back, they're actually full of money. So it seems like this is one of Jabba's I think Boba says one of Jabba's former vessels, but it just seems to be a business with a kind of side gig. It's making some
Mm-hmm.
illegal money, and I guess
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably like typical kind of mafia fashion where the business pays the mafia, or in this case Boba Fett, in return they get protection from
Yeah.
other kind of
And then
criminal gangs.
we get to see a little bit of like I guess the old Boba Fett, the bounty hunter side of Boba Fett, where
Mm-hmm.
he's uh like I'm think he was a I'm happy to see this place prosper. I don't think that
Oh
was the
yeah,
correct like way he said it, the exact dialogue, but he was like I hope this place as well, you know. And I'm like, oh, so there's the old Boba Fett.
for sure. Yeah, I think we don't really know what's driving him to want to be the big bad, and we don't know if it's because he thinks the underworld needs a change, or maybe he wants more money. You know, it could be something as simple
I
as that. Oh,
think it's always about money.
right. I do have in my notes here. I forgot to mention we actually do get a cameo character in this scene. Max
Yes.
Rebo,
Max Rebo.
one of the band members in Jabba's palace. He looks like a little blue elephant guy.
Yeah, no, he looks like just one of those Grogu dolls
He kind of does. Yeah, he's got these
from like
floppy ears.
the store.
But yeah, we do see him in this bar, and it looks like he's got a new gig after Jabba's untimely demise. Quick turnaround.
And he survived.
Yes, very happy. He was always one of my favorite aliens growing up.
Why?
Because I like him. He's blue. He looks like an elephant. He plays his space keyboard. What more could you want from an alien?
I know. Very, very cool alien.
So Boba and Fennec leave the
I'm glad
sanctuary.
music survived.
Music can never die. So Boba and Fennec leave the sanctuary, and they're talking about, this is where we get that line. It's been in every trailer, Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
You always have to make that voice.
I have to. It's part of the agreement.
The contract that we signed.
Yes. But it is true. Boba doesn't really, as we've been saying, he prefers to be respected, prefers to be kind of looked up to rather than kind of feared and looked down on.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just, you can't trust people.
Right. And Fennec kind of says that. She's like, fear is a little easier and it will probably pay off a little better because it's hard. Like you said, you can't really trust criminals, right?
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, Boba and Fennec get jumped in the streets by these kind of ninja assassin looking guys. They've got these electro pikes and they got these energy shields.
Yes.
And they corner, basically, essentially they surround Boba and Fennec. And this fight scene is a bit controversial, Eber, I'll tell you. There were good parts and there were bad parts about it. What did you think about the fight scene? Just the whole thing.
I will agree. I will have to agree. There were some parts that I didn't like, and then there were some parts I did like. Some just the parts that I did like was showing off how badass Boba Fett is, where he grabs that one guy and then he punches him in the side.
Oh yeah.
And then he just slams his body into the ground. I think that was so cool. And obviously when he blows up the one guy from the building.
Love that scene.
I loved
it.
But for me, the bad things it's just where he after the whole fight, the two bodyguards Boba Fett's bodyguards come running towards him because he's down on the ground and he's like hurting, I guess, really bad. And it could be because he was, in the desert or he's still recovering. But I don't know. I think that was just a weird scene for me because I just don't think Boba Fett would I don't think he would be that hurt or
right.
But he asked the two bodyguards to like take him to his healing tank. And you can see it cuts to them like taking them to his healing tank. And I just don't think Boba Fett would do that.
It's definitely a new aspect of the character. I definitely was like, I guess surprised.
I guess what I was trying to say is he just seems weak. Yeah, and I don't think Boba Fett is weak at all.
No, I don't think the hits he were taking were that hard of hits. We don't know how bad in health he was, but if you compare this to the Mandalorian, I mean, he didn't really take hits in the Mandalorian, but he was definitely giving them out. You know what I mean?
I guess he was. I guess I'm kind of because the Mandalorian, he in some scenes he seemed like he could take on more hits. Obviously, he Mando, has been down on his luck sometimes as well, and we do see that. But like, I don't know, for Boba's first fight in like the whole show, I don't know.
It was a little underwhelming.
Like that he had his armor and he had everything. Oh, we also didn't see how he got his armor.
No, we still haven't seen.
Yeah.
Well, no, we see in the Mandalorian he gets it back from.
Oh yeah.
Mando, but we don't know how he knows that Mando had it. That's really, I think, something that needs to be explained. And we talked about that last episode with the whole Cobb Vanth kind of plot hole.
Yeah, I hope they don't leave that off.
Yeah, me too.
Star Wars is known for that.
For sure.
Not filling up some spots. But yeah, that was my take on that whole fight scene. I don't know.
I have to say,
he had some badass moments, and then
for sure.
At some point it just kind of fell, like made him seem kind of weak.
So my biggest problem with the fight itself was the editing. And this goes back to Robert Rodriguez and his director style. But
back with the shade.
It's one of these things where if you're really, really paying attention, you kind of get punished for it.
And we've briefly discussed already this, but I did not see that actually what you're gonna say, but so I did not notice any of that.
Right, you've really got to kind of have an eye for it and kind of be looking for it. But once you see it, you'll never not see it, right? Yeah. So the first one is when Boba and Fennec walk out of the bar. His two Gamorrean guards are right behind them, but in the next shot, they disappear. And then when they get in the fight, Boba and Fennec seem to be cornered, and then the guards come out of nowhere and save the day, right? But according to like just basic laws of physics and logic, where did the guards go? They disappeared. Like they're literally not in the next shot.
Yeah. So, and then they're fighting, and they come running in, right? Towards the wrong direction.
Right.
I think from so the bar is behind them, and then on the opposite direction, the two bodyguards come running in, which is that's weird. Like, first of all, where did you go? Why are you now running in? You should have already been in the circle. Yeah. But you think that could have been like a bad plot?
What I think it was is they shot the fight, and then when they got in editing, they realized they forgot about that. They were like, "Oh wait, we forgot to put the guards in the background." Or they forgot to put in a scene where they walk away or something, you know?
What about I was thinking more like the writing, where they had to have Fennec and Boba Fett, down bad, and they were beating them up, and who was gonna save them,
Oh, you know what? You might be right, where they were like, okay, and then what happens? And
then what happens next? You think that if that was the case, then then the Book of Boba Fett is in trouble. I hope not. I hope it was what you said,
It's just a simple editing. Yeah. And I would probably say that it is, because there's a lot of other editing mistakes. In the fight, there was one that stuck out like a sore thumb to me, where Boba kind of runs into one of the shield guys, and they basically clothesline him and knock him down to the ground.
Yeah.
But in the next scene, Boba's standing up and fighting again. But in the next scene, he's on the ground again. And it's just one of those things where you have to really be well choreographed with your your fight choreographer and your editor really need to be best buds in something like this, right? But it seems like they weren't best buds, and you can definitely tell if you pay attention where characters, it looks like they're kind of teleporting around. 1 second, Boba's fighting 2 dudes, and the next second he's fighting 1 dude, and the next second he's laying down, taking a nap.
Is that his style though of editing or directing?
Yes, that's part of Robert Rodriguez. He's one of those guys who's like, if it looks cool, don't worry about it. But sometimes it's not, especially in a fight where Boba gets chumped on. It just wasn't cool enough to distract me from the editing mistakes.
Yeah, no, I have no clue what you're talking about, because I didn't see any of that, not until you until you told me.
Go back and watch it, and you'll probably
I will most definitely know. The only thing I did notice though was the bodyguards, now that you mentioned it, because I do see them running the opposite direction of where they were, right, and they were right behind them.
So they get in this brawl, and Boba gets beaten up really badly, and he can't fight anymore. And so Fennec decides to go after the guards because they run away, and he tells Fennec, alive. He needs one of them alive. And this is a really cool scene where we just kind of had a lackluster fight scene, but then we get a really cool kind of action parkour scene.
Chase, the Fennec chasing the two enemies, two bad people. that are trying to get away, and they just parkour on top of the roofs, which is I
This was
think
a
was
really
a really
cool
cool
scene
scene.
to me. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I really loved the part where Finnick rounds one of the corners and one of these guys throws like a blade and she does this really cool like ninja backflip to dodge it.
Yeah, and then she fakes jumping off the building,
I guess
and
she
then
jumps off.
she comes
Yeah,
back. That was really cool.
that was really
And then
cool.
she takes on both of them,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, only one can make it back.
Yeah, she only needed one anyway.
Yeah,
She kicks the other one off the roof and decides to take the
yeah.
skinnier one. I guess he's a little easier to carry.
I guess, and yeah, I'm hoping to see what he has to say.
Yes, for sure.
Probably and unveils the whole plot.
So they, like you said, the two guards take Boba back to his back to the tank, and when he gets in, he starts kind of dreaming again, and we see the rest of the flashback with him and the Tuskens, right?
Mhm. Okay,
So
here
Boba,
comes back my question, because
yes,
he like
okay,
wakes up right
hmm
to this youngling Tusken Raider taking them right to,
hmm
I guess, to this biker gang, right? But the first time he tried to escape, he a Tusken Raider came out to stop Boba Fett, right? Was
hmm
that the youngling?
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
Boba. He
yeah,
so the youngling comes out to stop Boba, and Boba
yeah,
like trips him, and he picks up his stick, and he looks like he's gonna
yeah,
attack him, but
but he
he's like,
doesn't.
"Look, yes," he
He
spares
actually
him.
spares him. But um, is that why the youngling takes Boba Fett and the other alien? What race is he?
That was a Rhodian.
Him, the Rhodian, uh, to the desert, right? Out in the desert, and to dig for some pumpkins that are filled with water, which I didn't know Tatooine had. But
Pretty cool. I might go dig in my
was that the
backyard.
reason? Was that like was that him? I think that
I
was him, the
that was
youngling.
the same kid. I think I don't know. I think still took them out there to dig for water. I think that was the main purpose. But it definitely seemed
Yeah,
like that came back to help Boba. Him sparing the youngling kind of ended
yeah.
up helping him earn the respect of the tribe at the end of the episode.
And I have a feeling that maybe the chief saw that, like
He could
spare
have, yeah,
the Tusken Raider that came out to stop him when he tried to escape the first time.
yes,
Which we'll get more into that.
right. So as you said, they go out to the desert, and before they
Mm-hmm.
start digging for these little gourds of water, they actually stumble across this homestead that's being ransacked by a biker gang.
Yes.
And we've seen these in the trailers for the Book of Boba Fett, so I'm assuming that they're going to come back and maybe play a role in the story. But we don't really get much here except for a tease that there is a biker kind of swoop biker gang on Tatooine. We see them
Yeah.
kind of write their symbol on the house, and the symbol seems to be new. I don't think it links to anything pre-existing in Star Wars, so it seems like this is probably a new gang.
So you've never seen that sign?
No, no.
Hmm.
But maybe they try to join up with Boba later, but probably most likely Boba is gonna fight them in some way. He's gonna come
Yeah.
across them again and stick them up. So they come across the biker gang, and then after that, they go out to the desert to dig for the gourds. And this was another scene that I thought was a little long. It was a little goofy seeing Boba Fett dig in the sand for little melons,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. But
And
yeah, that scene just doesn't doesn't tie in with like anything.
they could have cut about 3 minutes of that out, I think.
I
And
guess, yeah.
yeah.
Eventually like the kid was like gonna hit him because he found one, and then he goes to drink for it, but
hmm
he catches the youngling's stick and was like, I need a drink.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then he takes a sip and he gives it to the youngling, and then he asks him to drink it. And then the youngling pours out the
I
water to the
know.
dog.
Yeah. And it's like that scene I just don't understand. I like
Right.
Where
That was
does
one of
that
those.
fit in?
Right. That was one of those scenes that thing could have just been cut
Yeah,
and
because
take
it
that 3
doesn't
minutes and add it
like it
somewhere
doesn't
else.
represent respect, in my opinion.
Right. It does the
And
opposite,
it
actually.
doesn't like I don't know. It is weird.
Yeah. I mean,
For
if Boba
sure.
really wanted to drink that bad, why didn't he just drink the rest of it? No.
And
I mean,
just quick again, quick note back to the other captive, the other prisoner.
mhm.
What is his deal
Oh
about?
yeah.
Yeah, Boba Fett was like, we can escape right now, and he just didn't want to.
He
Like
didn't even
wanted to be
acknowledge
part of the
him.
tribe.
Yeah, he didn't even acknowledge Boba until Boba threatened to kill him, and then he turned around and started mouthing off. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he enjoyed being a captive. I don't know why anybody would like
And,
digging in the sand for melons.
the Tuscan Raiders actually seem kind of cruel.
Yeah,
They
they're not really
actually
good
seem
hosts.
no, they're not. They're really not.
So while they're digging in the sand for these melons, the other captive comes across a creature buried in the sand. It's some kind of six-armed monster, very Greek mythology to me. It reminded me of a centaur, kind of the way it moved
Centaur.
around.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too when I first
Mhm.
saw him. That's actually the first thing that came to my mind.
But it was
But
a really cool creature.
you have you ever seen that? Is
Mm-mm. It seems
no
to be a new Star Wars creature.
new Star Wars creature.
But yeah, this monster starts attacking the group and he kills the other captive, thankfully. That guy was annoying.
Yeah.
And
He didn't have
they're
a it was rough. It was rough. The way he died, it was rough. He got stomped. Oh, first of all, he got picked up upside down. He got punched by this monster, and then he got stomped.
yeah,
Got
pretty rough way to
yeah,
go out.
yeah, pretty rough.
And so since Boba's chained this guy, Boba's also
Yes.
getting flailed around.
Mm-hmm.
And
And he also gets picked up, but
mhm,
punched, but he goes flying, so he's not getting stomped.
right. And
But
this little Tuscan tries to save Boba. He runs up and he stabs the monster in the foot, but it doesn't really
mhm.
do much good.
And he's actually about to get the same fate as the other captive,
Mhm,
but Boba Fett actually comes running from behind
mhm,
the monster and jumps on his back and starts to strangle him with his chain, which I
chokes him out.
think that was really cool.
It was a
Like
really cool scene.
he's thirsty. He hasn't had a good sleep, I'm assuming.
No
I'm
food.
sure his whole body is aching.
He's bald, wind
He's
chapped,
bald.
sunburned, acid washed.
And he managed to kill this new monster because Star Wars needs to add new monsters, like their codex isn't big enough already. But he managed to kill this monster, bare hands, chain, like
Yeah, really cool.
yeah,
And he has this
shows actually.
triumphant pose afterwards where
Yeah.
he's standing on it, and he's holding his chain. And you
And
mentioned this about
yeah,
respect,
yeah,
but
I think that's seen because later on they go back to the tribe, right? And
right.
the youngling just goes crazy. He comes into the tribe running in with the monster's head, and I guess he's telling every. At first I didn't think he was gonna tell. I think he was gonna take all the credit for himself, but
Right. But
he
no, he
actually
gives
tells. Yeah, he gives
this the
the
true
credit.
story. Yeah. And you mentioned yesterday how, Boba had the opportunity to like kill this little kid and his dog and escape. Like he had the perfect opportunity to escape, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. He decides to go back to the tribe because that's the more respectable thing to do. And it pays off because he earns the tribe respect. The
Mm-hmm.
chief Tuscan gives Boba a sip of
Of,
the
of
gourd,
course. Yeah.
the water gourd.
Yeah. And I think that whole scene of just him coming back, because he could have escaped then too after
Right.
killing that monster, he could have escaped. Because I'm sure the youngling got hurt, but
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. He actually probably took the youngling back.
It seems kind of like it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that scene was just perfect, and it shows like what the theme of that first episode was, and maybe even the whole show is just Boba Fett trying to get respect.
Trying to
And
get
I'll
some
put some
street
respect,
cred.
respect on my name.
Have you
But
seen that thing with that meme about Full of Flame, where he's like, "How much for a beat?" He's DMing this guy's, "How much for a beat?" And he's like, 30, and he's like, "That's crazy. You only got 10." And he's like, "Oh, too bad." And he's like, "You know who I am?" And he's like, "Full of Flame?" Question mark. And he's like, "Yeah, put some respect on my name." This is exactly what they're reminding me of Boba being like, "Put some respect on my name."
no, actually, I've not seen that. It's
Well,
hilarious.
I'll send it to you later. It is hilarious.
um, but yeah, that definitely shows respect. You
Yeah.
got the respect. Uh, what else? What else I was gonna say? We forgot.
I will say one thing we forgot to talk about is the
What's that?
soundtrack.
That's gonna be in our ratings.
Oh, okay. You didn't want to talk about it now?
We can, yeah.
The
Because
soundtrack is
okay. The
that's
soundtrack.
all right. All right. That's
The
right.
soundtrack. Yeah. It's
Well,
okay. It's okay. We can talk about it now.
all right.
All right.
It was amazing.
The soundtrack in this first episode was amazing, and now that I think about it, it actually fits in because it sounds like a tribey, like song,
Yes,
and
it's
like I
very
think it fits
swashbuckling.
perfect with the Tusken Raiders
It does. And I think it even fits for Boba Fett. I think that
for
the
sure.
composer is really embracing Timur
The
Morrison, who is the actor who played Boba Fett, and he
mhm.
does a fantastic job playing Boba. I mean, his
Oh yes,
delivery,
yes.
you
He
know,
top notch. If we had the mixer, I would press the applause button. But yes, props to him. He honestly did amazing.
he did for
Those
sure.
bad scenes, or not bad scenes, just bad editing. He saved it a little bit with his
He
acting.
for sure, yeah. I mean,
He did great.
he himself did not have a bad scene. Even when he
No,
was digging in the sand, he was doing such a good job being kind of
yeah, yeah.
annoyed and kind of just like, "What do you
His
want?"
acting was amazing. It was really great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And to
Don't think they could have picked a better actor to play
no,
Boba Fett.
for sure. And so he's a very proud New Zealander, very proud Maori culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they were definitely embracing that with the show's main theme because it is very tribal, very kind of islander swashbuckling,
Yeah,
and it sounds so good. Fantastic
but
main theme.
I'm gonna go ahead and rate the soundtrack. Uh, 30 out of 10 Boba Fett helmets.
Wow, 30. I have to agree. I have to give it 30 out of 10 Boba Fett helmets as well.
Yes, that was an epic soundtrack, and I don't know if I've told you this, but I did download it on my Spotify.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I did. I really did.
Fantastic.
It was great, man.
So I guess this is a good segue to move into our final rating for the first
Just
episode of
overall
the Book of
episode.
Boba Fett. Yeah. What would you
I'm not
give?
counting the soundtrack. The
Right.
soundtrack on its own is it's great, but I'm gonna give it a 7.5. 7.5 Boba Fett helmets. Uh, like I said, I was trying to get emerged, because that's what
Mhm.
you want to do with Star Wars. You want to be in there, but you can't,
Right.
because it's but you know, just those scenes, that first scene of him escaping and like just getting unemerged was really hard for me.
Yeah.
So definitely brought the rating down a little bit. And that fight scene, like I don't think Boba Fett is just that weak, in my
Right.
opinion. But I don't know. Maybe he was trying to heal some more. And like we've said this before. We're like, we don't know much about Boba Fett.
Mhm.
He only has four dialogues, like in the
Right.
whole Star Wars trilogy. But uh, hopefully this show will show us more about him. Tell us more who he is, like his
Mm-hmm.
past, you know. But yeah, overall, 7.5.
All right, so I'm just a half a point behind you. I'm going to give the episode a seven Boba Fett helmets out of 10. I liked it overall, and after rewatching it a few times, I liked it on each rewatch. But I think what this first episode was missing the most, and I'm taking points off, of course, for the editing, the weird editing, and some things
Yeah.
like that. But I think the show really lacked kind of the big season opener. Most shows for their season one pilot episode, they have something big.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, even The Mandalorian, which preceded this show, its season one openers had really big moments.
Yeah.
This episode did not have that really. It didn't have any big moments. And I think the moment that could have been big would have been Boba escaping the Sarlacc, but they really downplayed that. So I think this episode was mostly, as you said, to get the kind of theme, get the story beats out there of respect, Boba Fett being
Yeah.
humbled, and kind of showing us what kind of character we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Um, it's always
If
hard to rate
like
the
if
first
this show
episode.
would have like opened up with big explosions, and like
Mm-hmm.
action and all this stuff, like that would have been great too. Like there isn't a right or wrong like answer to like how
Mm-hmm.
the show could have opened. We would have, I think everybody would have loved it anyways.
Right.
But yeah, I see what you mean.
I think it's always hard to rate the first episode because we don't know. We still got 6 more episodes to go, so we really
Mm-hmm.
don't. At this point, we still don't know where the show is going. So I hope by next week's episode we'll have a more concrete idea of what's going to happen. But speaking of what's going to happen, do you have any predictions for the next episode? Any ideas of what you
Um,
think could happen?
we'll probably see the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're probably gonna see the mayor. My opinion and my prediction is that the mayor sent those bad guys after Boba,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was. So I've said that that uh woman that was in the bar, I forgot her name.
Oh yes, yeah, the
Yeah,
Twilight.
she seems very sus, very fishy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird that they got attacked after they left,
That
you
is
know.
interesting. Yeah,
And
they did get attacked right after they left.
she did give them coins in their helmets. Like their helmets were filled with coins. And you can see Boba Fett dropping his helmet, and the jaw was just taking.
Steal the money.
But that was weird, and I have a feeling that she is probably connected with the mayor.
That's a pretty good guess. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I do agree that we're most likely going to see the mayor next episode, and that he's
Mm-hmm.
probably the one who sent these assassins after Boba. I'm really excited to see how Boba reacts. What his, how is he gonna fight
Yeah, how's he
back, or
gonna
is he
handle
gonna?
this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see what he does. Maybe I'm going to guess he'll probably kind of hone a little bit of Teddy Roosevelt and speak softly but carry a big stick. He's
Mm-hmm.
probably
Yeah.
gonna say, "Hey, look, I get it. You're a little upset. I'm moving in on the turf and everything. I'm gonna
I
let this
hope
one
not.
slide."
I'm hoping not.
We'll see. I think from the trailers we can kind of guess that there is going to be a big conflict that breaks out,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. I think it may take another episode or two for these other crime lords to kind of
But it's
for Boba to get under their skin, I guess.
there is 7 episodes, 6 now that we've seen the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can take their time, and showing
Right.
us the big plot,
That's true.
because there isn't much left. I'm
No.
hoping to see a little cameo from the Mendo, but it's
Ooh,
okay if they're
that
not
would
gonna
be
give
really
me that.
cool.
It's okay. I
Um,
understand.
I'm still gonna stick with my prediction that Kira could be the main antagonist of the
Villain.
show. Yeah, with Crimson
Mm-hmm.
Dawn. And actually, something I wanted to mention that we were talking about the show last night, and I forgot to tell you this.
Yeah.
But this is we were talking about the soundtrack for the show, right?
Yeah.
And when you listen to the soundtrack and the main theme about halfway through, kind of all of the vocals and stuff cuts out, and the music changes to kind of this like sinister music.
Yeah.
Well, if you compare the the theme being played there, it sounds very, very similar to the Crimson Dawn theme from Solo.
Really?
So maybe they're hinting through the music. I mean, Star Wars has done that before. Star Wars has always been very big into, motifs, musical motifs and themes and things like that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they want us to pick up on this, and that is intentional for that little musical note to be hinting at the
Because
main villain.
I think the the movie that comes before A New Hope, the music in both of those are supposed to be the same, right?
Yes,
What's the
yeah.
movie that comes before New Hope?
You're talking about Rogue One?
Yeah, Rogue One. So in Rogue One, they actually wanted like a something new for the song, but to stay kind of the same so it would match with New Hope, because it takes like right after, right? Like right after, yeah.
Or
So
right
like
before.
yeah, yeah. And I've seen like some back some footage of them working on it, and it was like it's a big thing in Star Wars. Music is a big thing in Star Wars.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
they did that in Solo too. They used some of the like themes from the original trilogy for certain characters and things like that. So you're right. Music is a big deal, and when you reuse a theme or you have a theme that sounds similar like that, it should mean something. And this composer for the Book of Boba Fett, who's the same one that composed for Mandalorian,
yeah,
really knows his stuff. So I'm going
yes.
to guess that this is probably intentional.
um props to him. He is doing it right. He needs to not stop doing what
No,
he's doing. He's doing great
fantastic
for
work.
sure.
Well, Eber, I guess that is pretty much wraps us up for this second episode of the Cargo Hold.
Yes.
We're gonna ask all of you listeners to please support the show, like, subscribe, all that jazz. It really does help us out,
Yeah, try to get us out there to more viewers. So yeah, if you guys want to, please subscribe, like, check our other social medias. We might be posting just some things that we don't post on here. I don't know, just snippets, something. But again, like I said, we are still working on a couple of kinks that like maybe choosing a different background for like different social medias. But I think maybe staying the same for all of them is a good thing, just so people can find us easier.
Yeah, it's we've got a long road ahead of us. Just
yes, we are both
kind of consistent.
Very, very new at this.
Yeah, and we're not doing it full time. And they can probably see it. Yeah, which all of these things affect it, but what we can do is just ask you to support this show and hope that with the continued support, and we're gonna try to upload as consistently as we can, that we'll actually start to snowball.
We did not mean to do 2 videos in 1 week, so do not get used to that.
Right, that's just kind of the way things happen. We wanted to get the first episode out
as soon as possible. Right. Get a little prologue, introduce ourselves. And we did miss a couple of things in our first episode. Yeah, but we will just be posting 1 video, hopefully every week, until this Book of Boba Fett, ends.
And then after that, we'll be starting a season 2 and seeing what we might have in store then. We don't know. It's kind of a surprise to us too.
Yes, we are working on that. We're trying to plan ahead. I don't want to say that we are unprepared.
No,
but we could have done some things differently. I will say that. But so far, I am very happy with what we have going on.
Yeah, we're doing really good. Our analytics all look pretty good, and For a brand new podcast. For a brand new podcast, we're doing pretty good.
Yes, I'm excited. I want to continue doing this. This has been really fun. We have been friends for like a long time now, since high school, but I feel like we're gonna get to know more about each other because we are spending a lot more time. But yeah, I'm excited to do this again.
Yeah. So I guess without much more to say, we'll tip our hats and bow our heads and say thank you all for tuning in this week, and we hope to see you next time into the cargo hold.